Program that informs and educates viewers about their legal rights and what recourse to take. I'm your host, Tumila Mates. South Africa loses several millions of liters of water each day due to leaks, burst pipes, lack of maintenance and theft of equipment, among other things. Now, to turn this picture around, authorities are encouraging citizens to join hands in preserving this important resource. This month's awareness campaigns culminated in an enforcement week that ended today by the Department of Water and Sanitation. To discuss this topic are Mr. Anil Singh, Deputy Director General for Regulation, Compliance and Authorization from the Department of Water and Sanitation, and Ms. Mariette Liefering, Chief Executive Officer of the Federation for Sustainable Environment. But before we get into this discussion, let's listen to this insert.
The police and the Blue Scorpions, a unit within the Department of Water and Sanitation that is tasked with tackling water-related crimes, pounced on Amos David this week. David, a Northern Cape mine owner who is accused of illegally stopping the flow of water from the Vaal River. It is alleged that David is illegally drawing the water from the nearby Vaal River for operations on his 8 mines that are on his property without permit. Department of Water and Sanitation believe that his alleged blocking of water from the Vaal River not only has a disturbing impact on the Kimberley residents, but on the environment as well. The Blue Scorpions disconnected 6 pumps, leaving David angry. The Department of Water and Sanitation eventually left him with a notice to appear before a tribunal. Transgressors of water legislation could face up to 10 years behind bars. And David could face the same prospect if he is eventually found guilty in a court of law. The Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Pamela Joede, plans to conduct an awareness campaign starting from right here. Dries van Wyk, a subcontractor on this project, is now worried about the negative implications this raid will leave here. He also fears that 48 employees will be left stranded as he will no longer be able to pay them. David, as the property owner, will now be left with the responsibility of rehabilitating the river for the benefit of the community. Mbali Madigwa, Right and Recourse.
Well, thank you to Mbali there giving us that report from the Northern, I think it was the Northern Cape?
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape. I see your Minister is prepared to roll up her sleeves, the Deputy Minister.
Yes, Tumila. Yes, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to appear on this program. It's an honor for us. Yes, our minister, Ms. Nomvula Makanyane, is known as Mama Action, and I don't think she's known as Mama Action for nothing. But in this case, the Deputy Minister led the program of enforcement in the Northern Cape.
Can you tell quickly what are the objectives of the department with regard to this enforcement week?
Well, it is the work of our Blue Scorpions that is done throughout the year. But during the month of November, we heighten awareness, we create more public awareness of enforcement and the importance of respecting our water laws, and that we take a zero tolerance approach towards people who break the law or abstract water illegally. So the public must be aware that where they have a responsibility, they have to adhere to the law, and we certainly will not allow people to use water illegally without consequences. So the enforcement month is taking our program to a new level in terms of where we profile our political leadership to lead the programs and to be actually on the ground to take the enforcement action, as you saw in the insert.
Well, we've always spoken, this is the 3rd time we have the Department of Water here this year, and we've always spoken about the scarcity of water. Part of that is the safeness of the. How safe is our water, Mariette?
Yes, I just want to perhaps, if I may, comment on Mr. Singh's response. We are most heartened by the Deputy Minister's action. However, we are most disheartened by the fact that mining is currently taking place in 41 river systems, that is diversion of river systems, in also 3 pans and also 10 wetlands. Some of these wetlands and pans and river systems had been classified as freshwater ecosystem priority areas, high biodiversity areas. We all know that mining by its very definition is non-sustainable because it's depleting a non-renewable resource. If mining, for example, also have these profound, often irreversible impacts of ecosystems, viable end land uses, that is viable economic activities after mining, may not be possible. I also want to perhaps raise the concern that we have often found that mining companies can operate with impunity without lawful water use licenses. I will exemplify it.
We will come back to that. As you look at the insert there, I think that was a mining operation taking place in the Northern Cape.
That's correct, Dumela. Yeah, it was a diamond mining operation taking place in the Northern Cape. Yeah.
How do people get so far, bring machinery onto the area and begin to work without having received a license, as Mariette was pointing out?
Well, the Department of Mineral Resources grants a mining permit, and then you have to apply for an environmental impact authorization, which is the Department of Environmental Affairs, and our department then has to issue a water use license. So in many instances, the water use license is either not, there's never been an application, or an application is underway. But certainly in this case here, we had taken action. We had taken a decision to take action. Before we take the action, we comply with administrative justice in terms of giving notices and directives. And if those are ignored, that means people are defying the law. Then we have to act swiftly, and in this case you saw the Deputy Minister and our team of the Blue Scorpions took action.
Probably both of you can answer this question. Are our people aware of the scarcity of water? We're getting water from Lesotho. What if Lesotho says, we're not giving you the water anymore?
From my side, I can say we have a great deal of awareness. The department is constantly creating awareness around the scarcity of water. We have a program dealing with water conservation and water demand management. We actually have a war on leaks where water is being wasted. And that is a national program that we roll out every year. But we certainly can do a little more in terms of educating and creating public awareness. And this is the program that gives us that opportunity.
Mariette, what's your organization doing? Probably I should have asked that question much earlier.
The Federation for a Sustainable Environment is a community-based organization with international and national affiliates, specifically focusing on Section 24 of the Constitution, the realization of a right to an environment that is not harmful to health and well-being, and the right to sufficient water.
Do you help communities as to tell communities about the scarcity of this resource?
I personally sit on dozens of steering committees where I represent the voiceless, the disempowered, specifically the communities that are affected by industry. Their lives and livelihoods are affected also by the mining industry. Just perhaps to give an example, and I hope it's without forfeiture or impeachment of modesty, I have during the last 3.5 years conducted workshops and tours with more than 30,000 people. I just want to come back, if I may, to the question you asked regarding our water quality. First of all, I may mention to you that it's not just a matter of water quality but water quantity. It was stated in the National Water Resource Strategy 2 that by 2025 all 4 international river basins will transition into absolute water scarcity. Now, South Africa's economy is based on a national hydrology. We will transition, therefore, from a water demand situation to a water constraint situation, and that may have enormous ramifications: economic growth stagnation and job stagnation.
Anil, I want to come to something that I picked up in my research. In almost in 2009, the then Minister of Water Affairs, Ms. Muyelo Sonjiga, warned that the South African water resources are under serious threat from hostile farmers who are siphoning off billions of liters of water from the country's river. Is this still the biggest threat to our water resource?
Dumela, there are many threats to the water resource. As you know, we had a transition from water being a riparian or in the hands of private ownership to now being in the public trusteeship of the minister. So the minister, the water minister, is the national trustee of the water resources. So all of these challenges, but certainly with the farmers, there is this opportunity for us, because farmers have what is known as existing lawful use, right? And now we are requesting farmers to, we are actually going to be able to deal with that and make sure that where the farmer is using water, or where the farmer's allocation of water is far too much for his current needs, his or her current needs, that water should now be surrendered into the trusteeship of the minister to make more water available for emerging communities, new human settlements.
There's a province in this country that I think should not be running short of water. It has rained throughout the year. That's the Western Cape. What's happening to that water?
Well, I think South Africa is an arid country. We are the 33rd most arid country in terms of the classification of water resources. But the Western Cape, all of these is part of the national program that we are dealing with to try and make sure that we deal with the scarcity problem. So there is various initiatives and programs, and the government is really seriously concerned about water scarcity, as is all the citizens of this country. So we are taking that role and responsibility very, very seriously.
Can I perhaps here interject?
Quickly, yes.
Yes. The fact is that acid mine drainage also has been recognized, not only the theft from farmers, but also the impact of acid mine water. Of course, acid mine water has been an established phenomenon since 1903.
Mariette, we're going to get to the acid mine drainage thing, which I've actually made a separate segment for that.
Yes.
But if you'd like to join us on today's discussion, please call us on 011 714 5497 or 5498, or tweet us at Rights Recourse. You can also email us at rightsandrecourse@sabc.co.za. We'll be back after the break.
Because of cancer, I realized life is short. I want to live my dream.
They can bend my face, but not my voice.
I'm definitely not a cross-dresser. South Africa, I'm just a gay man.
Join Puleng Molebatsi on Bupilong every Saturday at 17:30 CAT.
Welcome back as we discuss the scarcity of water in South Africa, Africa being the 33rd driest country in the world, as Anil was just saying. Anil, the question I have for you is, your biggest challenge remains municipality water, the water that is municipality disperses to the various communities, leakages, taps running all the time, especially in informal settlements where there are communal taps, where people leave the taps, or the top part goes off and the water just spurts through the air.
As I indicated to you, Dumila, the department takes that very, very seriously, and the program that we have is our water conservation and water demand management program. And to bring it down to real terms, is what we have declared a war on leaks. So the minister leads that program. Earlier this year, during the Mandela event, we had an event in Northwest, in Mafeking.
The 67 days.
Yeah, the minister and the deputy president were on the ground in the community in Mafeking, looking at how we can deal and educate people about it. We had basically demonstrations by a young female plumber, which is a very wonderful thing to be part of, whereby she showed actually how we can change a tap or change a washer. the water resources is very scarce. So education amongst the public is paramount. And the program that we have, the War on Leaks program, is a national program, and we are certainly intensifying that going into the future.
I thought you were going to say the minister grabbed this equipment and worked on it herself.
Yes, it was the minister and the deputy president who were replacing a tap that was leaking, and that was actually good to see. But I think the water quality as well is something that we are constantly monitoring and trying to improve.
Surely, sorry, Maria, before you come in, surely if a washer is finished, is run off, surely the water is going to get contaminated.
Yes, yes, Dumila. But in our townships, in our informal settlements, we have a large degree of indigent people. For them to replace a tap or a washer, etc., it can be done by themselves, but certainly our role as government is to educate and inform that a drop of water, cumulatively, if we are looking at saving water for the country, then every citizen has an active role.
But Anil, shouldn't this be, I'm sorry Maria, do you want to say something quite earlier? I just want to finalize this point. Shouldn't this be part of your contribution to the public works program, where you say a plumber in the township, if he was there when he repairs the tap or whatever, or the pipe, he will then be paid as part of the public works program, instead of waiting for a municipality to come and say, okay, now we are going to send a plumber next week to go and repair that pump.
Yeah, the public works program is an ongoing program, right? But each municipality is a water services authority and a water services provider. So, but the responsibility starts with the homeowner. If you're a homeowner and you have a leaking tap, surely you have to take some steps to do that.
Let's talk about a communal tap.
The communal tap, yes.
Let's talk about a communal tap.
Yes, the communal tap can be dealt with by a plumber that is employed by the public works program. And also the municipality. The municipality has the first line of responsibility. As you know, local government is the arm of government where it is located within the people, and they are the ones that have to serve the communities. So the municipalities have a responsibility to ensure that the communal taps do not leak, or if there's a leakage, they must prevent that.
Well, I perhaps also mention, besides of course the leaking taps, we also have a dilemma at the moment with raw sewage flowing into river systems. There often is lack of cooperation between the housing departments who are building infrastructure and housing, low cost housing, and often there is not sufficient upgrading of the sewage plants. I just want to mention, since I sit on quite a number of these steering committees and water forums, these are water quality results. From these water quality results, we find that, for example, the fecal chloroform, the counts, they exceed it by 100 times the regulatory limit or the acceptable limit, and that is ongoing. So it is not just...
Let us pursue that. Let us pursue that. Adil, this problem that Mariette is raising here is you have a big problem in the Vaal River, especially the confluence of the Vaal River and the Orange River.
But the water, the department has approaches these water quality issues nationally through its regulatory incentive-based program. So we have monitoring for fresh water, potable water, which is the green drop, the blue drop program rather, and for wastewater, the green drop program. And
could you explain the green drop and the blue drop program?
It measures, the municipalities subscribe to the program, and it measures the quality of water, and then we monitor that on a national scale. And basically the municipalities, some of the metros, etc., have better results, they have better resources, but our focus in those regulatory performance tools of the blue drop and green drop is really to help those poorer municipalities, those distressed municipalities, to improve overall. And now we are introducing what is called the no drop certification program, which is directly linked up with with water conservation and water scarcity.
The other thing, Mariette probably can come in here, is the issue of aging infrastructure. The department has pointed to aging infrastructure, especially with municipalities or the department's own infrastructure. What are we doing with that?
Yes, the aging infrastructure is a historical challenge. It's a problem that we face. The department is certainly dealing with it head on, Dumila. The infrastructure has got to be refurbished. We're looking at national infrastructure, you're looking at municipal infrastructure. We have a system of allocating grants to the municipalities for the upgrading of infrastructure or refurbishment of infrastructure or building new infrastructure. So that's an ongoing program. But the challenge that we have is sometimes the local government, I think the big problem is to try to ring fence that money, is to make sure that the money that is given to local government is intended for upgrading a wastewater treatment works, is not used on other projects in the municipality. But there is a review of the grants. They certainly were wanting to hold municipalities more responsible. Recently the President had the summit with local government on back to basics. So we're working together with our Department of Cooperative Governance to improve the way in which municipalities perform. But when municipalities are failing, we can't sit back and do nothing. We have to jump in there and assist and support municipalities.
There's also cumbersome processes with regards to, for example, obtaining lime, because often lime is necessary to treat the water, lime dosing. Yes. And we often find at these forums municipalities admit, and these are not just small local municipalities, but city municipalities in Fuleni, Johannesburg, a municipality, that there is not sufficient lime.
The question I want to know is we are very good at wanting to find farmers who are saying they have to be responsible for food production and they should have access to water. Do we find the municipalities too?
Yes. The approach that we take in dealing with municipalities obviously are part of government. So we have an intergovernmental approach towards that, Dumila. And the same way that we deal with farmers, we deal with municipalities. But certainly we have what is in place, a protocol of how we deal with municipalities. So if we have laid criminal charges against municipalities, they're not holy cows, certainly. But the responsible thing is to get them to comply through a cooperative governance approach. As you know, in law, we can't get into intergovernmental disputes with one arm of government and another. But where the municipalities do pollute, recently there was the case of Elsie's River in Stellenbosch, where criminal charges are laid. And I think these are certainly things that we take very seriously. But the local government issue is how we deal with it, rather, is in terms of cooperative governance.
The other thing that concerns me, sorry Mariette, I know you wanted to say something. The other thing that concerns me is the cumbersome nature of getting the fines out to the people who are causing all of these problems.
Well, we lay the criminal charges, or a member of the public, even Mariette's organization lays criminal charges, and then from there it goes into the hands of the National Prosecuting Authority. A docket is open, investigators is assigned to the docket, etc., and the matter flows. We've had success stories in terms of finding mining companies with substantial fines, all right? But the daily reality that we have to face is that the National Prosecuting Authority is dealing with murder, rape, all of those offenses. So I think we have to probably look at having more dedicated resources for environmental and water crimes, or actually have more dedicated resources in terms of having prosecutors. Probably specialized courts is something that we've had conversations about that, but we need to prioritize it. But public awareness is what is at the heart of this conversation.
The monitoring,
Mariette, public awareness, that's your area.
Of course, the public, even though being aware, must also be capacitated in order to bring criminal charges, and therefore there is monitoring results required in order to adduce evidence of non-compliance. I just want to raise this concern that the Department of Water Affairs since October 2013 has not been monitoring the water quality as a result of the termination, the expiration of the laboratory contract. Now this is of serious concern, because if you do not monitor your water, you do not know what is the impact, and you cannot manage the water. Furthermore, I may just also mention that civil society faces a significant dilemma, because most of the civil societies are not just undercapacitated because of knowledge, but they also do not have the financial capabilities or the capacity to enforce legislation. We do know that the police staff are not familiar with the enforcement of environmental crime. So we often then are left with no alternative but to do civil litigation, in other words, to go into private litigation, which is extremely costly, and the duty of or to adduce evidence, the proof, the evidence must then rest on the public.
Well, we will continue with our discussion around the safety of our water and the scarcity of the water. I would like Mr. Anil Singh to respond to some of the issues made by Mariette when we come back. If you'd like to join us, you can also ask us some questions. We'll respond to them on 011 714 5497 or 5498, or tweet us at Recourse. We'll be back after the break.
Smartphone takes superior photos even in low light. Has PlayStation 4 remote play and up to 2 days battery life. Don't settle for good, demand great. The new Sony Xperia Z3 series.
Welcome back as we continue our discussion. Anil, the question for me, probably you should first respond to the laboratory thing that Mariette raised.
The laboratory contract issue has been resolved, Tumila. There was a challenge around that, and it has been resolved. Most recently, we had the spill in the Kruger Park, which had quite a lot of publicity, and we did take samples and send them to the labs. But we work with our other organizations like the CSIR, Council for Scientific Industrial Research, and the Water Research Commission. But the capacity, when we have to prosecute, we do need the samples. And those samples are made available to the investigating officer. So we have resolved the issue of the lab contract being terminated. Going to look at the future of the program for the rest of the enforcement month in November, there are targeted activities in other areas. I obviously will not divulge the details of that because the offenders will wise up to the fact that we're coming. We conduct these sting operations, but we ensure that we take the necessary administrative justice procedures and inform them. But where we issue a directive or where we issue a notice and people do comply, but where they don't comply, that's when the Blue Scorpions pounces on them and raids that particular. So the remainder of the week, the remainder of the month, we'll see activities in KwaZulu-Natal, we'll see activities in Limpopo, and we have a dedicated program to deal with those activities.
I will respect your fact that you don't want to mention these places that you're going to visit, because I'll pick them up.
Well, people watch your program, so I think...
The question I want to ask, though, the insert that we saw earlier in the program, and the people who are mining in that area, what will happen next should they not comply?
Now, the assets that Mr. Amos had are now confiscated. They surrendered to the state. So there will be a formal criminal prosecution. If Mr. Amos is found guilty of a crime, then the assets can be sold by the asset forfeiture unit as proceeds of the crime. and then it takes its course in terms of a normal criminal trial. But the message is quite clear. As you saw in the insert, the idea is to show the people that we are serious, and this is a deterrent. This enforcement month is a show of force, and it's also to deter other would-be illegal water users.
Let's take this call from Mrs. K from KwaZulu-Natal. Mrs. K, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, with regards to the problem with water and municipalities, you find that there's a big problem with overtime in municipalities. And yet when there are people fixing leaks in the streets in our suburb, they'll work on this problem all week, sitting around during the day. You see them casually, and then come Sunday, they turn up on a Sunday and chop, the leak gets fixed, so they can claim the overtime.
Well, I hope none of you can respond to that question. I think that it's a problem at local government level where people do want to work after hours or on Sunday so that they can claim overtime.
Yes. I think probably, Dumile, we could have had a local government representative on board, but I can't speak about that particular case in its detail. Suffice to say that it's something that is of concern to the government as a whole. I mean, our employees are there to work and deal with the problems immediately and not to loaf around and loiter. I think that certainly will be something that we will take up.
Does the department have inspectors who go around looking at what is happening around water, around South
Yes, the Blue
Africa?
Scorpions is actually our inspector. So we have the head office, Blue Scorpions head office, of which I'm the head in Pretoria, and then in our 9 provincial offices, we have officials that are actually designated to go and inspect and carry out audits.
And people respond to people with epaulets and
yes,
they don't respond to people like yourself who are wearing a suit like me.
Well, I don't wear a suit all the time. When we go on these operations, we dress with protective gear and clothing, yeah.
I just want to say, which is perhaps a compliment to the National Water Resource Strategy too. It is stated there, it's encouraged that civil society must play a watchdog role in order to enforce regulations or non-contraventions with existing legislation. So we would also encourage government officials to see that civil society can be a very powerful auxiliary in addition to their inspectors.
The other thing that I wanted to raise, one of the things in a briefing to Parliament in 2011, the department told the Portfolio Committee that the main problems that are affecting the water quality in South Africa are eutrophication, fissile pollution, salinity, toxicity and mine drainage. Mariette has responded to these things. And I am probably finding from the department, what are you doing around these things?
Well, all of these sources or causes of contamination obviously are being addressed, Dumile, but as Mariette and I were talking earlier, there are some new technologies that we have to look at to roll out these new technologies in finding more appropriate solutions. But the contamination, again, it's about a community that springs up when a mine starts operating. Those people are working in the mine. And they're using water from the river or whatever the case might be. So all of these, we have a strategy for dealing with the water contamination problems. But watchdog organizations and civil society do have a role in assisting us, in bringing it to our attention. And we have the hotline where people can call and complain on these matters. But I think the conversation that we should be having is the existing technology that we have appropriate? And if not, then why don't we look at new solutions or new technologies?
Something I want to raise quickly, Mariette, probably you can answer together with that I've seen in rural areas where people take their washing to the river and do their washing in the river, and all that water with soap and toxic soap goes down the stream.
Yeah, I want to respond to that, but with regards to acid mine drainage, we discussed, for example, the looking at leaking taps and perhaps water theft. However, in terms of the integrated Vaal River system, the how to address water security, the priority is to address acid mine drainage. In other words, not just to neutralize acid mine drainage, but to desalinate acid mine drainage. If acid mine drainage is not desalinated by 2015 up to 2019, depending on the rainfall, the Vaal River will be in deficit. At the moment, we dilute the high salinity with the releases from Lesotho Highlands Phase 1. The Lesotho Highlands Phase 2 may only come online in 2022. If we do not address the salinity of the acid mine water in the Vaal River, and remember the Vaal River supplies water to 60% of the economy and 45% to the population. It also augments other river systems like the Crocodile West and the Limpopo. Then the Vaal River, the Upper Vaal, the Upper Vaal water users will have to face severe water restrictions, or alternatively the Lower Vaal and Orange water rivers water users will have to face very poor water quality. And therefore, because of the augmentation schemes of the Vaal River, economic activities in 6 of the provinces may have to be curtailed, as well as mining. So the priority, therefore, which is also recognized by the Department of Water Affairs, is in fact to address the acid mine drainage. However, I've been credibly informed that the feasibility study for the long-term treatment of acid mine drainage, which is desalination, had regrettably not been signed off by our minister.
Well, we did address desalination with the acting Director General was here. The then acting Director General was here. And his view on desalination was it's a very expensive exercise.
Yes, it is. It is a very, very expensive exercise. Dumila, I think I'll respond in general to the acid mine drainage challenge, right? It is a critical risk factor for the water security of our country. The way that the government has approached it is in terms of a holistic solution through the interministerial task team appointed for this purpose. Now, one can say that the department is got to address this urgently, and we've seen now recently, not so long ago, Gold Reef City, closer to home, right here in southern Johannesburg. But the issues that Mariette raised is that government have got to have a immediate solution, medium-term, long-term solution. The sign-off requires engagement. We have a new minister. I think we must be fair and give our new minister an opportunity to apply her own mind as to what would be her approach around this. Bearing in mind it's a costly exercise. And our focus as the regulator is to ensure that we are being unfair to the current generation of consumers for having to pay. Which is a legacy problem. The mines that previously contaminated the water are now been taken over or been sold. So we are engaging with that. We will come with the definitive solution. I think we have engaged the chamber. If the chamber is not willing to come to the party and contribute in its capacity as the parent body of the mining company, then we will have to look at a legal approach, and certainly we will not be discounting that or ignoring that, Tumila. But the problem that Mariette raised, we are fully aware of that problem, and it's a critical issue. Acid mine drainage needs a dedicated team. We have a dedicated team. Mariette has been dealing with my colleagues in the department that deal with it on an operational basis. But from a regulatory perspective, we certainly regard acid mine drainage as a serious pollution issue.
I just want to mention here, acid mine drainage, of course, is not a new phenomenon. It was already established in 1903.
I see there was an interministerial committee appointed to look at mine drainage.
That's correct. Yeah.
But that was, of course, I must just mention, it's very important to note that acid mine drainage, there were no proactive management plans put in place, and therefore acid mine drainage started to decant from the flooded Western Basin, the smallest of the mining basins, in August 2002. For 10 years, acid mine drainage was allowed to decant, untreated, unmanaged, unmitigated, and it had enormous impacts. For example, it resulted in receptor dams like the Robinson Dam having uranium levels 40,000. It's on the West Rand, having uranium levels that was measured in 2003, uranium levels 40,000 times above uranium in natural water, levels of uranium in natural water. The Tweeloopie-Spruit, one of the receptor rivers in which acid mine water was allowed to flow untreated, is now a class 5 river, a high acute toxic river system. So unfortunately, it was not proactive management of acid mine water, but reactive management. And the reactive management at the moment is in an incomplete treatment, which still releases water that is unfit for human consumption, even for energy production, for agricultural purposes, because of the high salinity.
Well, we'll continue our discussion, especially honing in on acid mine drainage as we go to the end of a program, towards the end of this program, because this is part of what could be good water, healthy water that goes to communities wherever they are. You will still call us on 011 714 5497 or 5498, or tweet us at Recourse. We'll be back after the break.
You can't have a gut feeling about other people's gut feeling.
Ngaba has continued the tradition of passing stories onto the next generation, using a platform that offers stories to a far more greater audience.
Zombie no go unless you tell them to go.
This is what the audiences all over the world knew Fela Kuti for.
Join Musam Khalipi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome back to Rights and Recourse, as we are live here this afternoon on Channel 404 as we discuss the water crisis in South Africa. I don't know whether we should call it a crisis, but it looks like it's going to be a crisis should Lesotho tell us we can't get water from the Highlands Water Project anymore.
No, I don't think we have any concern about that, because there have been bilaterals with Lesotho government and our government, and phase 2, the project for Lesotho Highlands is on track, Dumile. So I think that we shouldn't have concerns about that. I think the valid comment is the cost of the water, and the cost of the water being expensive. But I think that's something that...
Maybe you brought that up. How do you price the water?
Okay. We have a pricing strategy. We have a draft pricing strategy that looks at the different components of the water, the raw water charge, the infrastructure charge, etc. And then you come up with the formula to price the water in that way. The biggest challenge that we have is the affordability. And South Africa is no different from many other countries in terms of the affordability. We can give you more detailed information on how we are dealing with the pricing, but in terms of the pricing strategy, we're looking at the economic regulation and the social regulation. And the social regulation part comes about how do we make these prices to be affordable. And we have tariff consultations with all the in the catchment areas, etc. And one of the typical aspects that are covered in the tariff consultation is where people complain that this water is unaffordable or this water is thing. So we have to set the pricing that is fair, that is economically viable, and that is certainly in terms of looking at the protection of the consumers. That is a critical component of that.
Apparently in the Western Cape, the water in the Western Cape is affected by salinity and marine ecology. How does this affect the water? Marine ecology, I know the water comes from the sea, salty and all. Is that what it means?
I cannot answer that with profundity, but what I can answer with regards to salinity, especially salinity from the mining industry, is that the cost to combat salinity is currently carried by the domestic sector and by the agricultural sector, and not by the mining industry as would be expected. Because
let me just bring in this point. I read somewhere that the government is saying, the department is saying it will cost South Africa about 500 billion rand per annum to make sure that water that is used by South Africans is clean, fresh, and in a good state to be used. And I think a great part of that will be going to fighting acid water drainage.
Yeah, because acid mine drainage for the long-term treatment, for the long-term treatment, it was estimated just for the infrastructure would be 6.6 billion rand, and then annually for the treatment, the operation will be 750 million rand per annum. We must remember that the Interministerial Committee decided on the pump and treatment of acid mine, pump and treat, which would mean it will have to continue indefinitely. Besides that, these tailings dams, the mine dumps that we see around Johannesburg, contain 6 billion tons of iron pyrite tailings, and since these mine dumps cannot be maintained in an oxygen-free environment, it will generate acid mine drainage for centuries. So this treatment cost will therefore continue indefinitely. Currently, the cost of that is carried by the ordinary taxpayer, which the ordinary taxpayer finds unpalatable, since they have not caused the pollution and they have not benefited from the polluting activity. So it is our appeal to Department of Water Affairs that there should be an apportionment of liability, an internalization of externalities, and that the polluters should pay. We do realize that there have been mining activities over more than 120 years by more than 120 mining companies, but we are not ignorant as to the identities of these mining companies.
Dumile, our minister and the department, we've made a clear pronouncement of the enforcement of the polluter pay principle. We're not going to go back on that and deviate on that. But coming back to the challenge raised in terms of the cost, etc., the pump and treat methodology was what was deemed to be appropriate at that point in time. Now, when we were faced with this, the government's immediate reaction was to get a task team going to deal with the heart of the problem, and the department appointed one of its entities, the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, to be able to deal with this, respond to the challenges immediately. But having said that, I think the polluter pay principle is what we are going to enforce.
There's another call on the line. Let's take this call. We'll respond to that. Good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Hi, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir.
This question, my name is Christopher, calling from Centurion. Just a question to Mr. Singh, if he can give us his opinion on desalination.
Well, thank you very much. That's a short question. Yeah. Desalination, Mr. Singh. I have spoken about desalination.
You have spoken about
to the then acting Director General.
When we look at alternative technologies to make more to desalination is currently being looked at seriously, but the biggest challenge of desalination is the cost. As we progress with time and we get new technologies, new players into the industry, I think the cost will decrease. But it is certainly a solution that the department will pursue as an alternative to ensure the water security of the country.
Can I just mention?
I think hold that thought until we come back from the break. You can still call us on 011 714 5497 or 5498 or tweet us at Rights Recourse. You can email us and give us what we can talk about in the next year as we are preparing ourselves to take our bags down to the coast. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back as we continue talking about water, the safety of water and the water scarcity. Let us speak to Mweketsi from Johannesburg. Mweketsi, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Hello. Actually, I'd like to want to know about the oil mining that were mining in the area. They were mining, then they polluted the water. So, what is the legal route that we are going to take about those mines? Because I don't see the government taking an action. Last time there was a problem of asbestos, then there was a legal route that they were taken for those people who were helping the people to people who were actually the people who...
Thank you, Mweketsi, thank you very much. We got your question. You want to know the legal route if the mines are not playing ball in helping us with the water. But before we respond to Mweketsi's question, let's take a look at what the Twitter community is saying on our program today. Well, there are Mbilo Kumalo saying water leaks may lead to contamination. Therefore, municipalities must protect people's rights to health. Janet says, Grahamstown has so many water leaks, they get repaired only to carry on leaking worse within hours. Water Wireless says consumers should be left with technology for benchmarking after all the leaks repair. To measure is to know. Well, those are some of the issues that we are dealing with. First of all, the questions raised by Mweketsi, and probably you can add, Mariette, to the things you wanted to say earlier.
Yes. With regards to salination, that was the question that was asked by one of the viewers. The government at the feasibility study for the long-term treatment of acid mine drainage stated that there is innovative technologies, there are embryonic technologies and proven technologies. The proven technologies they identified as being the high-density sludge for the short-term treatment of acid mine drainage and the immediate treatment, and reverse osmosis for the desalination or long-term treatment of acid mine drainage, because these are proven technologies, not in pilot stage but for large quantities. Then I just want to go back to the caller, yes, where he said what can be done. Section 19 of the National Water Act is very clear that no person, it's a very wide pool of responsible and liable persons, owners of land, persons that operate and so forth. Any person that has caused, is likely to cause and causes pollution must remedy the situation, and they must prevent it from reoccurring, and they will have to carry the cost for the remediation. And the custodians of the National Water Act, of our water, is the Minister of Water Affairs. So therefore we may appeal to the Department of Water Affairs that they should enforce it, but regrettably we have seen a systemic failure on the part of Water Affairs to enforce these contraventions with promptitude and with diligence.
Quickly, Anil, you want to respond to that? Because that's your department, that's the enforcer here.
Yeah, I want to strongly disagree with Mariette. I think the department has got a proud track record of taking enforcement action. With regard to the mines, Dumila, we had the conversation to say that we have to look at the acid mine problem as a legacy problem, and we have to hold the past owners responsible, or the current owners who are legally successors entitled. As I've said, we have clear marching orders to come with this legal solution that will mean we have to look at getting legal opinions, we have to look at getting experts to say, do we go? But we have been engaging with the Chamber of Mines. If the Chamber of Mines is not willing to take responsibility on behalf of their members, nothing precludes us from looking at going after the current owners who are the legal successors entitled. I think the Water in Grahamstown tweet, there were interventions regarding that, and regarding the suggestion around technologies. Yes, we are open to many people to bring to us what new technologies. You and I were discussing earlier before the program that there should be an open conversation about new technologies, but they have to be tested, they have to be put through probity, and that's the department's responsibility in terms of that. But I want to say very strongly that I disagree with Mariette, that where we have We have Section 19 and 20, we have taken the action. In the case of the mines, in the AMD issue, their first engagement is with the chamber, but nothing precludes us from going the legal route.
The other thing that before the time that we have, quickly, there are communities that are still without water, who draw their water from the rivers of this country, and surely those communities are at risk.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. We go to those communities and see them together with our minister, our deputy minister, our DG, and we have to listen and share.
Anil, they don't want to see you, they wanted to do something.
Yeah, but we are doing. We are attending to it. When there is a community that is at risk, there's an immediate intervention team that's dispatched to the community.
I think perhaps appeal to Mr. Singh in front of the public that the Wonderfonteinspruit, since the Water Research Commission report in 2004 and 2006, identified the Wonderfonteinspruit, which as you know flows to the Vaal River and flows into the Boskop Dam, where more than 400,000 people obtain their drinking water. The Wonderfonteinspruit was found that the sediment contains elevated levels of metals, cadmium, cobalt, copper, zinc, arsenic and uranium. At this point in time, people are still using the water for irrigation, for spiritual rituals, baptism, for drinking purposes and watering of cattle. Can you perhaps make a commitment to us when that will be remedied?
Well, I think our team is aware of that problem, Mariette. I will be able to make a commitment that we will come back to you within a week with a clear-cut answer as to what intervention and what remediation we are taking with that. But the details of that I will provide.
Thank you.
Certainly.
What else are you likely to be tackling in the next month or so, in this month?
Dumila, the enforcement month is basically the business end of the work that we do in order to enforce the water law and to create the public awareness about the water law. I think we're looking at various sectors. We're looking at mining, we're looking at agriculture, we're looking at farmers, but I think for us we look at in terms of how do we measure our success, and the measure of our success is that we have to have these things documented, the outcomes, what we gained from this enforcement week. But ultimately it's about making people aware of the water scarcity and the fact that they must use water responsibly.
Well, this has been Rights and Recourse. The program is repeated at 10 tonight and at 5 on Monday morning. From all of us in the studio, thank you very much to our guests and good afternoon.